Hey guys, Jen Matthews here from Salsa Babies. Okay, so this week's episode of Jen's Bubble, I'm really excited about this. So we've kind of been talking about doing this for a while in Jen's Bubble. This week we're going to just have like a family conversation, a mom conversation, sort of opening up my eyes, I guess, because I totally live in a bubble. I've said this before. So I find myself when I am, in class connecting with moms, or if I am online in a Facebook group full of moms or whatever, sometimes, being that I live in a bubble, I don't think that my way is the right way, but I think a lot of us do this too. So I think that's why it's an important conversation, is that when we look at how sort of other people talk about their families or do things in their own families, or, any of those kind of differences that we may have as families, sometimes, and I'll speak for myself right now, though I'm pretty sure a lot of you can understand and agree with this. I kind of look at that sometimes and I'm like, oh, that's odd. It's not what I do. And it's not that I'm judging it or it's a bad thing. It's just I don't understand it. And I always sit and think, like, I wish I understood a little bit better, because then maybe I would do things differently. It's one of those things, you don't know what you don't know kind of thing. So that's where this show is coming from. So today I have Nalady Stones here with me, and I have Timu Hurley, and we're going to be discussing an interesting topic that is sort of near and dear, I think, to all of our hearts. We're going to be talking about food and our families. And it sounds like an odd topic, who cares? But I think you'll understand a little bit more why we want to talk about this once we start talking about it, because we probably have sort of different perspectives on food. But I want you guys to get to know Nalady and Tamu first. So Nalady, why don't you go ahead first and introduce yourself? Tell us about your fam.
Definitely. So I have three lovely wild children. My kids are 5.5, 3.5, and 1.5. And I say wild because we are recently discovered unschooling about, 6 months ago or so, I would say now. And so we're kind of in like the transitioning process of figuring out like what this new whole world is about. It started with just how we approached learning in our home, but we've learned that you can actually unschool with a range of topics, absolutely anything that you want in your whole world. So food is definitely something that we're sort of like finding our new groove with it. And Tamu is my big sister, so she's actually just here at our home on the weekend, so she'll probably laugh at some of the stories we share today, because food is a hilarious and maddening topic in our house right now. Yeah,
pretty awesome. So it's going to be fun to hear your stories. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Okay, Tamu, go for it.
I'm Tamu, and as Nalady said, I'm her sister, and I have two boys. Reese will be 4 in a couple months, and Miles will be 3, or sorry, Reese will be 5 in a couple months, and Miles will be 3 in a couple of weeks. I'm like, seriously, brain fog. Yeah, and food is also an interesting topic in our house because we have food allergies and sensitivities. So it's always an interesting and exciting adventure to, go to the grocery store, go out for dinner, go to other people's homes. And we definitely, as Nalady was saying, we definitely have a different take on, a different approach to food and meal planning and menus and options and all of those kinds of things. So yeah, I think this will be actually like a really entertaining conversation.
That's cool. Good. Okay. And so my family dynamics, I have 3 kids, like Nalady. My oldest is almost 11. My middle daughter is almost 9. And my baby is 5. Food is, again, another, I think is, like I said, I think it's going to be a fun topic to talk about because food is huge in our house. My husband is from Trinidad, so we have a sort of food dynamic with, I guess, a mixed marriage where Canadian food is certainly not like West Indian food at all. So we can kind of touch on that topic as well. And also very, very recently, similar to Tamu, we have started addressing some food allergies and sensitivities in our house too, which is totally like my bubble for that is about this big. I can't even fit myself in that bubble. So that's why I think this is going to be interesting to me because I'm just trying to wrap my head around the food sensitivity thing right now, which for me is so counterproductive to everything that I know about food. It's actually incredibly frustrating for me. So I think it's going to be a really cool thing to sort of chat about. And I think for me, this segment of the show is really just to show how different people live. We can all live differently, make different choices for our children, for our family, whether or not I agree or you agree with how we do things. It's totally okay. And that's your right as a parent. And I think for me, that's what I want people to sort of take from the show is just different people live different ways and it's totally okay. And as long as we respect each other, and even taking it one step further beyond respecting each other is if you just stop for a second and say, I might be able to learn something here. That's my hope. For this segment. Okay, so let's get right into it. Let's start talking food. Okay, so Nalady, why don't you go first and share with us a little bit about what food is like in your home with your kids, what works for you guys, what doesn't work for you guys, and maybe, like you said, you're starting the unschooling thing. What does that look like with food? I have no clue, so I'd love to learn.
So it can be whatever you like. It's different for every family. I guess it's easy for me to talk about like where we came from with food because that was like how we spent most of our time before, and this unschooling transition is pretty new for us. It used to be, we always ate all of our meals together at the table at the same time. Snack time was at a certain time as well. You'd only get if you got choice, it would be one or two things you got to choose from. I would do a meal plan every week to plan out what we were going to have for suppers for sure, and sometimes lunches as well. It was all very structured and controlled for us anyway. And I would always plan out if you're going to have something dairy with breakfast, then you need to have a different food source, like a milk alternative for lunchtime, and then you can only have one apple per day, and then you have different kind of fruit later, and then you need to have a vegetable later. It was very, very controlled. I always believe food is medicine for your body. So that's where my context for food came from. Now with unschooling, it really is about understanding that in terms of food, food does different things for each different person's body. It is medicine, but it has different chemical reactions in each person's body, and you should be able to spend the time sort of figuring out and experimenting with different kinds of food to figure out what food serves you well and what food doesn't serve you as well. And of course, within a family of 5, that's going to look different for each person. So right now we're transitioning from a lot of structure and, like I said, control to my kids get the choice of choosing what they want to eat at any time, whatever is in our home, which right now is fruit all day long or cereal and a lot of cow milk. That's basically what my kids eat right now. My youngest is 18 months, so he's more likely to come up and, pick off food from my plate as well. Or he will sit down with a plate of whatever is supposed to be for supper and enjoy that, which is usually, vegetable rich and stuff like that. But my older 2 kids right now are, oh my goodness, just enjoying freedom with food and eating pretty much whatever they feel like in the moment. Yeah,
that's cool. And do you have any dietary restrictions in your home? What does junk food look like, or what does treats look like in your home?
We don't have any dietary restrictions, which is pretty wonderful. We can just explore whatever food we want, and nothing has a serious reaction in our home. Ada, my oldest, used to have an egg allergy, and we also, again, we entertain having Tamu at our house with her kids and their food restrictions. So, we are aware of different food sources. That's why I mentioned that as well. We do have cow milk, and we've got almond milk, and different things to try. So we don't have any food restrictions, nothing that we can't have. And in terms of junk food, again, chocolate's welcome. We try really hard. I have issues with certain kinds of food, so I really try to limit sugary candy and stuff like that if possible, and red dye number whatever. I want to have things that are healthful as much as possible, but you know, it's really important that we all get a chance to like taste these things and try them and see what they feel like in our bodies to know whether it's something that we want to keep enjoying or not. And what we've discovered is that like with restricting things in the past, when you do allow them again, the kids are like, they don't stop, they just keep eating it and eating it and eating it because it's become this thing that they couldn't have before. Now they're like, okay, I need to quickly eat it all the time before it goes away again. So nothing's off limits. Junk food, whatever you feel like.
Nothing's off limits.
Nothing is off limits right now.
Really?
But you don't buy a lot of junk food. So it's not like you have like a giant junk cupboard and they can eat whatever they want. You don't.
No, but for example, because Halloween just passed not that long ago, the kids, they were like on a mission this year. I was kind of impressed with them about like their plan for Halloween. We did a lot of trick-or-treating. Like we didn't stop them. We just did as many doors as possible. My oldest especially had this like gigantic bag of candy. And she had planned, you know, on Halloween night, I'm going to stay up and I'm going to eat as much candy as possible. And she did. And it was insanity. And I couldn't believe it. She like bypassed probably the sick feeling in her belly to just be able to keep going and going and going. And you know what's amazing? She did that. She didn't complain about her body not feeling well, but it lasted like 1 or 2 days of like binge eating candy, and she didn't go back again really. Like once in a while she'd go back for a chip bag here and there, but it's been like, you know what, I mean, I can't even think of the date today. It's been a few weeks and they haven't asked for candy again since. They had candy canes last night because it was the Santa Claus parade, and that was it. But you're right, Tammy, we don't really buy a lot of, it's not part of our routine to go to the store and like stock up on junk food. But yeah, that's what we tried.
So my mind is blown right now, and this is yeah, totally. As you're talking and you said you let her stay up as late as she wants to eat junk food, that's exactly what the show is about. Because right now my mind is like, are you crazy?
So to add to that,
out of your mind as a parent.
She went to bed that night at 5 a.m. And you know what's crazy? Tammy like bugged out the next day when I told her as well. I was so proud of her because she is the 5.5-year-old. She said it in her mind, I am going to do this. She went to bed early the night before with a little bit of reminding from me, okay, you have this plan to stay up late. Do you think you're going to be able to if you stay up a bit later tonight? Which staying up later normally would be like 9 o'clock. Like it's not that late normally. But she was like, no, I better go to bed early. She did it. The next night she went to bed at normal time again. She just needed to have that experience. And like that's what for us like unschooling is about, is like experimenting with that. She like knew the next day she did not feel well. She was also proud of herself for doing it, but she didn't feel great after being that tired, and she hasn't done it since. So it's like that's the whole premise, is being able to you know, try things and know if you don't like it or not. How do you know? Just when someone tells you can't do that, like you can't really experiment or experiment basically, like with knowing that didn't feel good for you. You don't do it.
My mind is blown.
Yeah.
Because I think to myself, okay, so with kids in my house, I never grew up with a say. Like you were just a stupid kid kind of growing up. Not in that context, but I'm sure a lot of you understand what I mean, right? You're a kid, you don't know, you have no life experience, just be quiet and follow along. So my husband and I have always said, but that's not cool. And I think a lot of us know the research now. Kids' opinions do matter and they see things differently than us, and that is how they learn. But in my own head, I've done that before. I know how that makes me feel. I know how many, especially as an adult, how many days it would take for me to recover from that. And I would feel like garbage the next day. So I would not allow my kids to do that because it would take them forever to recover.
But at some point they're going to try it. Why not try it now?
True.
You don't have responsibilities. She doesn't have kids to take care of. She doesn't have a job to go to that she has to make money to be able to pay for her living expenses. So do this crazy stuff now. I'm like getting the bunny ears out a lot. I don't know what that's about, but anyways, why not do this crazy stuff now when you don't really have responsibilities and you can like the next day or next 3 days recover from it, you know? No, she didn't actually take that long. No. It didn't take her that long. The next day she felt like poo, and then she went to bed early, and then she was good the next day after that, like, that's what I think.
Hilarious. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. See, I love talking about this kind of stuff because now I'm going to be thinking the rest of the day, like, okay, should I let my kids, now I guess it's a little different because your kids are unschooled, but you're still schooling them on life at home.
They're homeschooled, basically.
Right. Yeah. So you can maneuver your day a little bit differently than those of us who send our kids to school, right? So I couldn't ever do that because I wouldn't keep my kids home from school. But I guess on the week, I don't know. It's just, it's going to be something I'll think about now. I don't know. It's just interesting because I do respect, as a parent, I do respect their opinion on a lot of things. Though I've said, like we say to them, your opinion matters, but sometimes I don't have time for it. So sometimes you don't get a say. That's just the bottom line. If it's we have to go now, you don't get a say. So that's interesting. That's really, really interesting. And I like the food thing. And see, I can draw similarities in my house to the sort of, I guess for lack of a better term, like the free-for-all, right? That it sounds like whenever you're hungry. So in our house, again, as kids, it was like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. When we went to school, there was no like nutrition breaks and you get to eat throughout the day and stuff like that. It was breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And in my house, my parents took out, or my mom took out our food, and it was always too much. And you had to eat what was on your plate. That was the rule in our house. So she always gave us way too much. And that's probably why my sisters and I think that's probably why we struggle with our weight. Cause anyways, that's a whole other show. But growing up with our kids, we wanted to maintain, just like you said, the dinner every night kind of thing. But I think once they get to school age, I don't know that necessarily works, especially when you look at when nutrition experts say you should eat when you're hungry and it shouldn't be 3 meals a day. It should be small snacks throughout the day. Well, then none of that really works. Then you should be, in my opinion, if they come home from school and they're hungry and they just ate 2 hours ago, they should be allowed to eat. Mm-hmm. And my parents get upset because they'll come over and be like, but look at how much they're eating. Yeah, no, I know, but now they're probably not going to eat supper and then they're going to eat a small snack before bed. I get that. And you're right. It throws everything off. But isn't that what their body's telling them to do? Because they're not eating junk. Like they're coming home and eating fruits and vegetables or maybe a sandwich or something. And yes, they're not going to be super hungry for the supper, but isn't that what their body's telling them to do, I guess? I don't know. I could be totally wrong and off base on that, but.
No, I agree with you. That's where the whole unschooling thing is for us. Like it's about listening to your body and respecting what your body is telling you on the inside, what your cells are speaking to you. You know, I shouldn't be out here as your parent telling you what your body is needing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah, no, I think I think it's funny as they grow though, especially if you can sort of look at the situation and say, yeah, I don't need to be dictating that to them. Mine have always, and I think it's also probably the way we've raised them, the fact that we did dictate a lot of what they ate growing up, like you did, right? I think though, when they're that little, my opinion is that's how you teach them. So now you're not going to eat chips for breakfast. You're going to eat, a fruit and a glass of milk and some cereal or whatever. That's how I think they learn, as well as parents modeling. Yeah. That's how they learn proper nutrition. And they learn, like you said, what feels good in their body and what doesn't feel good in their body.
My last point on that would say it's not like a total free-for-all. There is like discussions about food in our house still as well. And like validating what, because you can tell that they know what they want, but it's like giving them language to support with the choices that they're making and knowing that there's different choices as well. And yeah, modeling is huge, I think. You can't say don't eat chips for breakfast while you're like chewing on chips for breakfast.
Yeah.
In
my house,
for all three of us was very similar. Tama can vouch for this too. Like food was very, strict and limited in our home.
Food was weird. And I think like when Jen was saying about, you have like your obvious 3 meals a day and maybe you have snacks in between, but it's like you have to ask permission for, each thing that you take, and you may or may not get it, and like very strict and structured to an extent though, because we grew up with a single mom who was out working at like all different hours, all different times. So it was like strict, but I would say limited is almost like a better word to describe it, because it definitely, like, my mom didn't buy everything. Like, she was on a limited budget. So we had only, a few things to choose from sometimes. And the times that she wasn't home, we were the ones who would make supper. We were the ones who would dictate what we would eat. So there were definitely nights, definitely days. I can think of like almost entire weekends where I'm pretty sure all we ate was like cereal, because she bought fancy cereal that had sugar in it. So you're like, we got to eat this whole box before she takes it back. And then other times where like we would make ourselves a complete meal in the absence of anyone guiding us to do that, or telling us that, you can do this or you can do that kind of thing. So yeah, it's funny, like, maybe growing up with so much structure, we sort of imposed that structure on ourselves, and then now imparting it to our children.
Yeah. It's so funny. Like, I just think of the odd things. When I was growing up, we were never allowed to cook. I think it's that minimizing the children thing, right? We were never allowed to cook. I remember being a teenager and just like, I just can't wait to get my own house so that I can just cook in my own kitchen, because we were never allowed to do stuff like that. It was, my mom cooked, and this is no news to her, so if she watches this, she was not a very good cook. We joke about vegetables that, you try to pick up a piece of broccoli with your fork and it would like crumble through the time. Right?
I couldn't eat cauliflower for years.
That's cauliflower was the same thing. It fell through the tides. I know. Right. I know.
Taste the flavor of that overcooked.
Well, it was funny because when my husband first came into the picture, I never got it until I was an adult. But my mom, for special occasions, when all the family would come over, we used to get cheese sauce for our broccoli and cauliflower. So she used to make the cheese sauce, and my husband, like growing up, there was no, like, you didn't even put salt and pepper on your vegetables, right? Like, everything was straight up, just straight nutritional taste.
Yeah.
So when he used to come over, he was like, that's freaking disgusting. Yeah. The vegetables are overcooked. She's putting cheese sauce on top of it. There's water left from the vegetables being over steamed in the bottom of the bowl. Like, so he finally got up the nerve and just said, can you just like leave some aside for me before you put cheese sauce on? And I was like, I figured it out afterwards. And I was like, that's what it is, because a lot of people don't overcook their vegetables like that. Yeah. She's masking the sloppiness of the broccoli and cauliflower with the cheese sauce.
At least she had a strategy.
It was thoughtful at least.
Well, and then it's funny now because my sisters and I, we tend not to eat a lot of cooked vegetables, probably because they overcooked every vegetable growing up. So now we have kind of said, we're more than happy to come to your house, but these are our rules. You will not overcook the vegetables, or we will not come. Or we'll cook the vegetables ourselves when we get there. Yeah. So anyways, that's just the quirky little stuff that I grew up with. So Tamu, talk about what food is like in your, I know, I can't wait for yours, because yours is going to sort of blow my mind as well. Talk about food in your house.
Lots of rice cakes.
The rice cakes. Okay, so generally I would say our approach to food is a bit more on the structured scale. I'm not so hung up on like it has to be 3 specific meals necessarily, but I definitely wouldn't say I leave it as a free-for-all in terms of choices and options. And I fully get that partially it's my own hangups about like you said, you can't have chips for breakfast. In reality, why can't you have chips for breakfast? Is there actually a reason? Like, will the chips somehow harm your body if you eat them in the morning versus at lunchtime or in the evening? No, but I definitely have my own hangups about like things that should be options for breakfast versus not. So yeah, we struggle with that sometimes. My opinion over what people would actually like to eat. I mean, now with school having started, we're a bit more structured in terms of like breakfast happens within a window. And I've always been pretty attached to the dinner time idea. And mostly it's because of Steve's schedule, my husband's schedule. That he has a limited window to spend with the kids when he comes home from work, between like when he gets home and when bedtime is, that I feel like it's nice to have a sit down dinner time. I'm not super rigid about the kids staying at the table, because I think it's that, you know, I'm just fighting a losing battle. Like, nobody wants to listen to them scream through all of dinner time. But I at least make sure that there are plates for everybody, and that we, like, at least Steve and I sit down, and that they're then invited to come and join us, talk about their days, we talk about whatever, and then, you know, move on to bedtime kind of thing. Yeah, as I said, not a free-for-all, so I try to keep options as like natural and wholesome as possible. The lady knows there are a lot of snack items that come out of crinkly packages and brown boxes in my house. A big challenge, as I mentioned before, is that we do have food allergies and restrictions. So I've always been allergic to eggs, always, always, always. Don't feel bad for me. I'm just used to it. There are definitely things I can't have, but there's lots of stuff I've figured out I can have, so I don't miss out. So my oldest, eggs have shown up on a blood food allergy test for him, so we know that that's a forever allergy. He's also shown up as sensitive to dairy, all parts. So there's no kinds of dairy that he can have currently that appear to be safe for him. And that has also translated into a sensitivity, or very strong sensitivity to soy, because he's allergic or sensitive to the proteins in the dairy. They can look very similar to his body to the protein in the soy. So anything with soy seems to give him some kind of reaction, and what the reaction is varies. So sometimes it's hives, sometimes it's like an upset stomach, one way or the other. And sometimes it's just pure brain scramble, which makes me feel sad, because he gets himself into trouble because he like completely loses control. So we are very strict about food in our house, in that you know, people can't just like gift us food items because I'm like asking about ingredients and everything. We know sort of the brands and the packages and things that we can buy. I home make a lot of stuff, especially when it comes to like baked goods and things like that. I mean, we still store buy a lot of stuff as well, but yeah, it definitely affects our adventures in fooding. More so out of the house now than in the house. So when we discovered that Reese had the sensitivities, he was about just under 6 months old, and I started to notice some eczema popping up on his face. He was exclusively breastfed at that point. When he was very new, we had formula fed him for like 2 weeks, not exclusively, but in conjunction to breastfeeding, because we were just having a little difficulty. Milk wasn't coming, so we needed to supplement. So he had a little bit of dairy directly that way, and then it was just through breast milk. And at that point, for whatever reason, I was consuming a lot of dairy. You know, baby falls asleep in the car, you go get a latte on the way home from places. Apparently that was a bad plan. So yeah, eczema started to pop out. I recognized it right away because I've always struggled with my eczema, which got worse when I was pregnant, coincidentally. Went and did some sensitivity testing, and that's when we discovered the problem. So we initially only cut stuff out for him, which meant also me cutting stuff out, and then eventually decided to just clean sweep the house and take everything out for everybody, because it was just so much easier than having to think about, okay, if I'm cooking, you know, this for me, then I have to cook something different for Steve. Because I've always been very much like, ever since my husband and I first started living together, much to his shock, been on the, I will cook one thing. If you want something different, you know where the kitchen is, but like, this is what's for dinner. Because I'm not a short order cook, and I really am not super interested in cooking a million meals. If I get a spark of inspiration, that's what I'm making. So yeah, so we quickly went to sort of clean sweeping the house. There are the odd couple of things like regular chocolate that I shouldn't have, that I keep in the house, and a kind of cheese that like only my husband and I can eat. But otherwise, I would say our house is fairly clean in terms of like things that my sons can eat. So yeah, I don't know what else I can say about that. It's definitely, I have to be stricter when we're out of the house than in the house, but in the house we tend to be sort of structured and help to guide their food choices. And I get that. It's funny with my sister doing their unschooling with food, because sometimes I think, well, if I just let them eat whatever, all they would eat was like rice cakes. Reese's favorite snack is rice cakes, and he could seriously like finish a sleeve of rice cakes in a day. So I'm like, there's really not a whole lot of like food value in rice cakes. So we tried to jazz them up with like, you know, well, peanut butter, but not peanut butter, like nut butter and jam, or hummus and sandwich meat or whatever we put on it to try and give it a little more substance. But Milady can attest to the fact that that kid could just eat straight rice cakes all day long and be totally happy. So in those ways, I try to limit it. So it's like, if I didn't limit it, would he make better choices? Would he pick vegetables or fruits ever? I'm like, at this point, I'm like, I can't trust that I'll make good choices. It's like, again, my own hangups. I'm nervous about it, so I still I give choices, but, you know, controlling the outcomes with like a 1 or 2 kind of thing.
Yeah. Food is so hard. So in our house, I am a very self-proclaimed, but you can ask a lot of people in my life, I'm not lying. I'm a very, very, very good cook. And I think it stems from not being allowed to cook growing up and just wanting to burst out of that. So when my husband now, he and I got together in high school, and then we moved out together to go to school. As soon as we got our first apartment, I was like, okay, I am going to learn how to cook and cook really well. So I was like the food TV crazy kind of person. So I learned how to cook, and I am not a recipe follower kind of person. I guess I just know what goes together and what doesn't. So food is super, super important to me, because for me, growing up, and especially with being in Houston's family now, from the West Indies, food is just a cultural thing. Like, you get a drink and you sit down and you eat and you laugh and you talk, and that's just the way everybody gets together and has a good time. Probably very similar to a lot of sort of European cultures as well. Very similar that way. So food is super, super, super important in our home. And I like feeding my family. I love my kids coming home from school, and them getting off the bus, and I have a good snack for them. Or, you know, now they're getting older, so they like to make their own kind of snacks. But then preparing supper, and I love having, all 3 of my kids love coming in the kitchen and helping prepare dinner. Again, like, that just makes me feel all sorts of good mom vibes. So the fact that we have this allergy monster now coming and sensitivity monster coming really freaking pisses me off, because it is so counter to everything that I know to be able to feed and nourish my children. So as soon as I had my oldest, I have always had the belief that, and I know a lot of people do too, what you put in is what you get out. So you need a lot of good sleep, and you need a lot of healthy food. What you put in good stuff. The body heals, the body sleeps, the body eats, you'll get good in return. So knowing that obviously feeds me to feed my children even more healthy. So that's why I home cook almost every single night, even if we have a busy schedule. But this new sensitivity thing, and it's with my son, and like Tamu, Raiden, we noticed when he was 3 months, again, exclusively breastfed for the first year. We noticed the eczema when he was about 3 months. We have pictures going back to when he was about 3 months, and he has the red on his cheeks. And eczema was not a part of what we knew back then in either side of the family. Though we did come to find out afterwards, my husband has severe like nasal kind of allergies kind of thing, which now we found out it's the same gene. So that's why Raiden probably has it. And it has been an awful, awful, awful battle with him. He has, from his own pediatric dermatologist that we go to, he's one of probably the top 3 worst kids this dermatologist has ever seen. Oh, wow. So obviously, as a mom, what do you need to do? You need to try to control it and figure it out and help your child. So this has been a struggle. Raiden's 5.5 now. We have had him allergy tested and sensitivity tested on and off since he was probably about 18 months, I'm going to say. That's probably when I started hearing about the sensitivity testing and allergy testing and stuff like that. And it's never been consistent. So he showed sensitivities to stuff back then. We took him off of it for 18 months and it never got better. So we knew it was something else. And just recently we've invested in doing a lot more testing on him. And he has now more sort of, the dairy thing is present in our house as well. My husband has always never liked dairy. He said it upsets his stomach. So I'm assuming he must have a sensitivity to it also, and he just knows and he stays away from it. So he's always drank almond milk. And about a year ago, my son kind of said, I just don't like, it doesn't taste good in my mouth. Can I drink almond milk with daddy? Sure, go for it. And we don't eat a lot of cheese in our house and not a lot of yogurt. Our main source of calcium comes from dairy or milk. So we go through a lot of that in our house. And so dairy wasn't a super big thing. And when he kind of switched over to almond milk, there wasn't a lot of sources for him to get dairy every day. So he was just getting his calcium from almond milk. And he's been going through some sort of ups and downs with his skin. It's supposed to get better as he gets older, and it has not. And so a few weeks ago, actually, this was how the recent round of testing came about. He had an episode, probably one of the worst episodes I've ever seen with his skin, so bad that 2 days in a row, the teachers called home and said, you have to come get him. His whole body was just like oozing raw. I know, Tamu, I'm sure you can.
I know.
So it was, and he's itchy and he feels bad and it's uncomfortable. And it's, as a mom, it's probably the worst thing I've ever had to do in my entire life, because I just don't know what the problem is. And I don't know what to do. And I've done everything I think I can do. He's gone to pediatric dermatologists, 2 different ones. He's gone to skin specialists. He's gone to all different kinds of specialists. And Tamu and I've kind of talked about this before with the medical world and the skin. And it's just not enough for me anymore to say, throw some cortisone on it, because that's not fixing the problem at all. And it really frustrates me that the medical system, that's your answer. You know better than that. You know that that's not fixing the problem. Why aren't you helping me find out what's causing it? So with this latest round, I had actually bought yogurt, dairy yogurt, 2 days before, which I don't tend to buy a lot of just because I find that it's got a lot of sugar in it, unnecessary. When we buy yogurt, normally it's Costco, the good Greek yogurt from Costco, the plain one, and we add our own fruit and stuff to it. So, but I had bought the grocery store stuff, and he went crazy with it. And he had like 4 yogurts on Monday, 4 yogurts on Tuesday, and by Tuesday afternoon was when it was like crazy bad. So after that, I was like, okay, that says to me, okay, I get it. My husband is sensitive to dairy, he knows that. I can clearly see now dairy is an issue. Okay, so we're getting somewhere, because that's the thing. We've never been able to get somewhere. We'll get our footprints on a path to where we think we're helping him. And then it's like, nope, that wasn't it at all. So we said, okay, we're going to do some testing. And now it's come back that yes, definitely he has a big sensitivity to dairy. He's also got a sensitivity to potatoes, which is... Tamu, have you ever explored the potato allergy sensitivity thing? No. Okay. So it's a good one. Because, and this is my frustration with food, I'm at the point where I'm just like, I don't even know what to do. How do you want me to feed my family at this point? So when we had to pay for testing in the US for his allergies, and it's come back that dairy's big and potatoes are big, and fruit with sugar is big. So that's one of his combination allergies. Yep. So that's fine. That kind of stuff is manageable. But the potato thing, there's potato starch in almost everything. Mm-hmm. Okay. So then in the document I get from the person who did the testing for us, in it said, you should also avoid, not that he's sensitive to wheat and gluten, he's not, but you should avoid wheat and gluten because they add potato starch to almost all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. Okay, what am I supposed to feed my friggin' kid then? He can't have dairy. Mm-hmm. He can't have sugar within 6 hours of anything sweet. So whether that's maple syrup, whatever, okay, that one I could probably manage. But I can't give him anything because there's potato starch in everything. He can't have dairy. Pretty much everything we've been feeding him. And like I said, I cook from scratch. We don't use a lot of processed foods and stuff in our house. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
I don't even know how to feed my kid right now.
Yeah.
That is your job as a parent, is to feed your kid and make sure they're healthy. I can't even do that right now.
Yeah.
So that's, this topic for me is just like.
Yeah. So we go through varying waves of me having like,
panic attacks
about what am I supposed to feed? I mean, like classic example was starting school, because sometimes we use nut butters at home. Like, I mean, sesame butter or I keep wanting to call it sesame, but I mean sunflower seed butter or pumpkin seed butter, but we will also use like almond hazelnut. So I'm like, okay, I got to cut that out. And then in our baked goods, a lot of times I use almond milk. Like, okay, we got to cut those out. So I'm like, man, it takes a lot of things that I like to make off the table. So every time we either come up with like a new sensitivity, because for people who aren't familiar with sensitivities, there can be your sort of core sensitivities, like, you know, with my son with dairy and soy are sort of his core sensitivities. We know those are probably going to be there for a while. They most likely won't be forever, but they might be like how your husband is, Jen, how Houston is, where, you know, he has a little bit and it makes him kind of nasally, or just his stomach doesn't feel 100%. So he might not ever really want to eat it, but he probably won't always have such a strong reaction to it. And I think that's where I'm at also with dairy and soy, where if I have a little, it's okay. But if I have too much, my eczema will flare up as bad as it was when I was pregnant, which could have been a clue right then and there that this was going to be a thing. So he has sort of his core sensitivities, and then on occasion, he will have reactions to other things. So if he has, like today, when I accidentally gave him a hot dog that had soy powder in it, thank you very much, his system will be generally more sensitive now until that clears out. So other things may cause reactions because his immune system is just a little bit lower. So it's just kind of knowing, like, what are the things that I need to really be careful of, and what are the things that, like, for the next 4 to 6 weeks are like, we could probably reduce those. And for me, because I do like to cook, it's not like my favorite thing. Baking's even less of a favorite thing for me. But as you said, Jen, I feel like that is one of my core responsibilities, right? I need to keep these small people alive by feeding their bodies with food. Like, if I do nothing else right today, you just need to have a full belly. It makes me excited to research new things that they can eat, to, like, you know, go to stores and read packages and find things that they can actually consume that don't,
like buffalo cheese.
Well, look, I've been always the most adventurous, and my sister can attest to this. I need to get there in my brain before I can be adventurous with food, because there's a difference sometimes with being like excited to try new things and like adventurous with food. And I have a lot of weird hangups about food and like, things that I will try. So it's on my radar. I will try it someday. Apparently buffalo cheese does not react in the body the same way that like cow's cheese and things in that stream do. So like even for Reese, he can't have goat, he can't have sheep, because they all have the same kinds of proteins.
They're from that same family.
Like a totally different family.
Yeah.
So someday I will try it, but all I can picture is this hairy, gross buffalo. I'm like, I'm gonna eat cheese. Like, it's just gross. I can't. I need to get. I'll get there someday. I'll have to come to your house and try it one day.
So side note with all of this, I will say, when we found out that dairy is his big thing right now, I obviously know Tamu has a lot of sensitivities in her house. So my first spot was like, MF, I gotta find Tamu and help me. So I said to her, I'm like, you just need to give me everything you can give me. So she gave me the abbreviated list of, here's all the substitutions we make, and here's all the other substitutions that we've never tried because I'm not gonna go there. And buffalo cheese was on there. And so so what Tamu was talking about before is like the sheep, the goat, the cow are sort of all from the same family. So typically if you're gonna react, from what I've been told, if you're going to react to dairy, to cow's milk, you're probably also going to have a sensitivity generally to those as well. So buffalo is not related to that family. Buffalo is related to the canine family, which does not bother me at all. Canine. Yes, I know.
So all I'm hearing is I'm going to milk my dog.
Yeah.
to have the milk because, well, it'll melt nice on my pizza. I'm like, no, can't do it. Not there yet.
So I guess in our family, like food, so with my husband's culture, we eat so much different stuff in his culture. Like we eat oxtail, we eat chicken feet, we eat cow's hooves. Like there's so much different food we eat that milking a dog, that I don't know, that's fine by me. If that's,
my mom, so we didn't really talk about this part, like our history with food portion going way, way back. My mom was raised in sort of near to South Africa in Zimbabwe. And we also grew up eating what North American culture would call interesting foods that to us just seemed normal, like oxtail and giblets and organ meats. Like seriously, I've eaten tongue. I've eaten tripe, which is cow stomach lining. I've eaten a lot of things that most people would be like, you are not putting that anywhere near my anything. Like just the smell of some of those things cooking, you would not put them in your mouth willingly for less than $1 million. Yeah. It's still like, I don't know why, it's just always been a thing that I'm still always like a little skeptical. I have to like psych myself up. I still am like willing to try different and interesting things, but I also, for better or for worse, I do have a sensitive palate. So I taste a lot of flavors. And so if I can't anticipate what something is going to taste like even when we transitioned from cow's milk to soy milk, that was like a very interesting adventure. And thank goodness that Reese was as young as he was. Because if he had been able to really see my reactions to trying just soy milk when we first did it, and then eventually almond milk, he would never have tried those things. Because the first time I tried them, I was like, oh my God, like how does anyone drink this? I'm like, I'm never going to drink this again. So it took us like a long while to really get there. And I'm very, very firm believer that if I'm going to ask my child to consume something, anything, whether it's medicine, if it's going in their mouth, I mean, obviously like vaccinations, I don't ask to be vaccinated before them because I want to try it. But, you know, like if he's had to have penicillin because we got a lot of ear infections before we discovered the food sensitivities also, if I'm going to put it in his mouth, I'm going to taste it first. Because how can I say, well, it's banana flavored, it doesn't taste that bad, when I know that fake banana flavored penicillin makes me want to die. Like it's like the worst thing you could possibly do to me. So when I know that it tastes bad, then I can say, I know it tastes bad. I'm going to give you this thing to chase it with, you know? So same with foods. If I'm asking them to try something, they're not getting something different than I am. And that's kind of comes back to I'm only going to cook one meal, because I don't think it's fair to say, you know, here's your healthy, you know, blended vegetable, like nothing added to its soup while I eat my cheesy, delicious, melty, gross pizza. It's not like I never eat things my kids don't eat. I eat them when they're not looking and when they're in bed. So I don't feel too bad about it, because I'm like, I'm an adult. I can put bad things in my body. I can make those choices. And like, they don't always get that. So I sort of, you know.
See, and that's an interesting.
I can't give him the buffalo cheese until I can taste it and say, yeah, it actually does taste like the cheese that you've never actually had and wouldn't even know that you were missing. Like,
and a side note to that, just for everybody watching, buffalo cheese tastes really, really good. So I made it a mission to go out right after that, because we like cheese. My kids like cheese and crackers. You know, I make homemade lasagna. I need to find something to feed my kid. So I made it a mission to go out and find buffalo cheese. I found it within a week, tried it. Oh my gosh, it's delicious. But that's an interesting topic, because that's something that we're starting to explore in our house right now. Is Raiden is really the only one who has these sensitivities. And so I've gone out because I want to feed my kid and I want to make sure that he has, you know, normal lunches like everybody else. Well, how do you go find a pudding cup for a treat or something, you know, once a week? Because everything has milk in it. So I went out and bought him these dairy-free pudding cups. They're freaking gross. But you have a pudding cup. So if you really want a pudding cup, great. So that's my husband and I have been talking about that. And I'm like, I don't want to transition the whole family to that kind of lifestyle, but for two reasons. A, because then it's a whole other learning process for me to learn how to cook with brand new ingredients that do not work the same and do not get substituted the same as the ingredients that we use right now. And to be honest with you, I don't want to learn how to cook like that. That's not going to be the rest of my life. And it doesn't taste the same. It's not the same. And I don't want my whole family to have to get used to that for one child. Now, that being said, I know that sounds horrible and people are going to be like, you're a crazy mother.
It's very honest. It
is.
Total honest answer. So thank you, and keep going.
Yeah. It is. And it sucks, but I don't want my girls to have to grow up with not having real cheese because their brother's got a sensitivity. So sort of the itch bay side of me says, but that's his deal. And as his parent, it is my job to supplement his life with the best things that I can, to give him that sort of normal life within the capacity of him being able to have sort of the same things that we have, but that are good for his body, and his body will accept it. I didn't do anything to cause this. I don't want to be punished by only ever being allowed to drink almond milk and that kind of stuff ever again. And I don't want to have to learn how to make, cream sauce with rice milk because it doesn't taste the same. And I have, like you, Tamu, I've always been the same. I make one meal. Mm-hmm. And in my house, I don't care if you don't like it. If you don't like it, then you don't get to ruin my dinner. You get to go to your room, because you're not going to ruin my dinner by sitting there with, this tastes a good thing. Then go to your room. If you don't want to eat it, you get to go to your room. This is what's for supper. And you're not coming out to have a snack later. So that's sort of the rule in our house. But now that's throwing all of this in the mix because, I can't even do that then.
No.
I am going to have to cook differently.
Yeah. So it's funny because just different perspectives and where those different perspectives come from. So I grew up, as I said, allergic to eggs, and I was very, very used to everybody's eating not so much at home, but say you go out somewhere, you're at a birthday party, whatever, everybody's eating cake and I'm sitting patiently waiting for us all to be done, and everybody's enjoying this or that, and I'm sitting waiting, having nothing because I couldn't eat those things. And on one hand, I believe that builds a little character, because you don't always get to have all the same things. Life is not fair and equal are not the same thing. And I want my kids to understand that you don't always have to have the same things that everybody's having. On the other hand, though, I fully get firsthand how poopy that feels sometimes, right? To always miss out is it's a little bit, gut wrenching as a kid. So again, when we discovered that this is where we are at and this is what we have to deal with, it was really important to me. And I think we honestly, compared to any other time before this, we kind of live in the golden age of food sensitivities and allergies, because there are a redonkulous amount of resources out there and you don't have to sit and figure out the substitutions and the new ratios and the what to put in what to make it taste the same or similar, because there's a million people who've already done that. And there's tons of blogs and recipe books and so many people doing awesome food work, trying to figure out, because I'm not, as much as I love to cook and I love to put together flavors, and I'm not a huge recipe follower, or I follow most of a recipe and then I kind of do my own thing. Especially when it comes to baking, I am not a chemist. And I have discovered very quickly that baking is about chemistry and understanding ratios and proportions and putting exact, seriously, when I measure flour, I just sort of scoop and wipe and throw it in. I don't sieve it and all these crazy things. I'm just put it in a bowl and hopefully it tastes like food.
Just needs to be wet enough.
Yeah. Sometimes then it's too much, and So I just for me, it's an adventure in trying to figure out what can taste as similar to or exactly the same as what everybody else expects to be eating right now, but that my kids can actually enjoy and not feel like you have to be the odd one out because you're very different. Because we're all different. And again, I think there's a part of it that it's I'm okay with Reese going to his grandparents' house and not eating chips because they have chips that have soy oil in them, and saying, I can't eat those chips because they don't make me feel good. But my mommy brought me some other snacks, and I always bring something that they can eat, so they're not going hours and hours without food. But when they have a birthday party, or if we go to someone else's birthday party, I might bring them a cupcake that they can eat, because it's important to me that he doesn't sit there while everybody enjoys cupcakes. So who doesn't want to eat cupcakes? I never ate cupcakes really until I was an adult and could find vegan recipes that are actually super delicious. And my sister can attest, and the rest of my family too, that when the boys have birthday parties, for their birthday party, I make cupcakes and everybody eats the same ones. I don't buy a special cake that everybody else can eat because I'm entertaining and then make them a one little thing that they can eat. Everybody has the same, and everybody has told me consistently that they're not exactly the same, but they're pretty darn close, and they taste really good. And I didn't make up the recipe. I would never do that because I suck at baking. Like, everybody would be having shortbread cookies if I was the one who had to make up the recipes because it's 3 ingredients. But I found amazing resources online, and I can share them with you if you want. Minimalist Baker is one of my favorite websites because most of their recipes are vegan. They have a lot that are gluten-free as well. And they've really prided themselves on trying to make them either 1 bowl or 5 ingredients. So there's, one or the other. But I don't think we've ever used a recipe off their website that we haven't all enjoyed. Some of them are like a little beyond my skills, like especially when it gets into the gluten-free, because I just am not super comfortable with some of the gluten-free flours and stuff because they aren't the same, and I haven't had a whole lot. But then I also know that there are some amazing shops out there that make, especially when it comes to like baked goods, is like the easiest example, but like Kelly's Bake Shop in Burlington, if you happen to be at your Hamilton classes and peruse past there, they have amazing treats that we can all eat. And they are specifically focused on making them allergen friendly. Like, so yeah, I don't know. So I kind of struggle with my own personal experiences with, you get this special thing because you're different, and everybody else will enjoy the pretty sparkly, delicious cupcakes.
See, it's so hard. It's so hard because I hear that, and I think, but you also grew up in a different time where the options weren't available, right? So, perfect example. We had a birthday party last night. My daughter's birthdays are coming up this week. And my niece, so we had a birthday party here last night. And my mom went to the store and bought a cake. And I never even thought, I honestly don't even tell my family because most of the time they think it's like mumbo jumbo. Why are you, give the kid milk. Come on. It's not milk that's causing it. Okay. My kid, remember? My kid. So we had a party here last night, and birthday cake came out. And Raiden is getting very good with saying, Mommy, is this okay? Because he's just learning, right? Like, this is very new. So he says a lot, Mommy, is this okay? Can I have this? Can I not have this? Which is good because we've said to him, Raiden, we need to learn about this together. And so Mommy can look at ingredients and Mommy can, figure all these things out for you, but you still need to ask because you can't tell by looking at a food whether or not it's something that you can have. And I said, we always bring it back to, how you get really itchy and remember your skin was oozing, like you don't like feeling like that, not at all. So we're trying to avoid that. We're trying to help make you healthier so that your body doesn't react like that to food. And it's the food that's causing it. So he came to me last night and was like, Mommy, am I allowed to have that cake? And I said, honestly, Raiden, probably not. I can't look at the ingredients, but I'm guessing you probably can't have that. And so we have bought him other treats that are just for him. So the girls are not allowed to have these treats. There's very specific normal, like we got them from Costco. There's packages of cookies that he's allowed to have. We also bought him, at Tamu's suggestion, some of the ice cream bars, which nobody's allowed to have. Oh, he loves those. So that's he came to me last night and he was like, would I be allowed to have one of my ice cream bars instead of cake? You're darn right you're allowed to have an ice cream bar. And then all the other, it's not fair. Shut your mouth.
Go eat your cake.
Eat your cake! So I don't know. That's how we're doing it right now to try to manage because I don't know, because I'm kind of torn. Like, I need him to know that he's different, and I need him to know that these things bother his skin, because at the end of the day, my job is to raise you to get out of my house. And when you're out of my house, you're going to have to figure these things out for yourself, because what you're sensitive to now may change someday. So you have to learn to listen to your body and figure out what doesn't feel good in your body and make those changes.
But not all packaged food is equal, right? Like, not all packaged food is horribly processed. I mean, It's all good processed because it's gone through packaging and stuff, but it's not all hard chemicals, right? Like, I know I had to go on a candida diet because I had a candida overgrowth a few summers ago. It was causing me to have seasonal allergies. And one of the recommendations was this, like, cardboard tasting that I fell in love with, like this cardboard tasting Ribena cracker. And they were really good, right? At first it was like, oh, they're so dry. But,
choke. Wait, I'm going to choke. It's so dry.
Yeah. But I mean, like that, if you look at the ingredient list, I mean, it could have been my neighbor that just like put together these really dry crackers and put them in a plastic wrap and then but I got them at my house. You know, like it's not all packaged stuff is evil. It's just hard to know what the process was.
So here's my hang up with the processed foods thing. And I totally respect what you're saying, and I understand that on a mental capacity level because I've looked at it. But in our house, and the way I grew up was that like food comes out of your garden. So we have a huge garden at our house. So for me, it's counterintuitive to go buy a package of that stuff. Like I just need to buy the raw ingredients and make it myself.
Do you make all your own bread?
Yes and no. Yes and no. Sometimes I do, but we don't eat a lot of that stuff either. Like the crackers, they'll eat rarely. So no, I don't make my own crackers, but we don't tend to eat, like I do a lot of canning. We use a lot of dry beans, like those kind of raw, not processed. I don't know. Maybe I'm even, I guess.
And then my next question is.
I guess it's all processed maybe though, right? I don't know.
Do you have a buffalo in your backyard?
No, but here's the thing. Is that
buffalo butter.
Before we knew he had a dairy allergy, I wanted to put him on unpasteurized milk because I really wanted him to get that bacteria. This was before I just recently found out about kombucha too. So he's on kombucha now. And I was going to get a freaking cow for my backyard. So we live in the country. We don't have a big property, but we live in a country. And I was like, okay, I'll just get my kid a cow. That's fine. We will have a cow in our backyard and we will go out and milk the cow. And we even researched, we went to talk to dairy farmers to figure out we needed a Jersey cow because Jersey cows is really high fat. So that's good for their brain. And it doesn't produce as much milk as other cows. So, you know, you're not going to get gallons and gallons and gallons of milk every week to try to figure out what to do with. Yeah, we were going to get a cow.
That's awesome.
We're going to get a cow. Eventually, I would like to get a property. So we have a huge garden that we have in the summertime. My goal with our garden, we have all the fruit trees and stuff like that, is my goal will be someday. Jennifer. My goal will be someday to not have to buy groceries in the summertime. So I'd like to have my own chickens and stuff like that. I like the idea of being self-sufficient and not having to buy a lot of stuff from the grocery store, which is why I learned how to can. So I do a lot of canning of tomato sauces and tomatoes. Like I'll do 100 cans of tomatoes from my garden and stuff like that. And we can all kinds of vegetables and stuff like that. But yeah, I was going to get a cow. So buffalo wouldn't be out of the norm.
I was going to say back what you said about the list of substitutions. I think, because I've kind of felt the same way. Like when I looked at that list of like, you know, if you're cutting out all these things,
frustrating
to buy instead. But then I have to remember that most people don't make a ton of stuff from scratch. Yeah. Maybe they make some stuff from scratch, but a lot of people do shop at the grocery store. And for me, it's kind of like even when we emailed back and forth and talked about certain substitutions, it's like realistically, I know I could make my own almond milk, but the volume that we consume, I would have to quit life and just make almond milk because we go through that much of it in a week. Probably not going to happen. Yeah. But I do try to make like as much as I feel comfortable to, and as much as I can make and actually have it be edible when it comes out of the, oven or off the stove. I do try to make as much as I can from scratch. I just know that there are some things like when we say about, cheese or our butter substitution. Like I'm not gonna milk a buffalo. Like it's just never gonna happen. Like I'd like to make a lot of things, but that's not one of them. So
I might have milked a cow. I might have. Maybe.
I don't know if I can go there.
But I probably would get sick of it very quickly though too. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Anyway. Well, this has been an awesome conversation, guys. It's so much fun to learn about how people do things differently and different lifestyles and why it works and what doesn't work. So thank you for talking with me today, guys. I hope everybody had fun, and I hope you at least take one thing away from one of the three of us, something we've said today or whatever, maybe a laugh, who cares, whatever, it's fun. Awesome, guys. Well, thank you very much, and we will definitely do this again.
Yeah, I hope so.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.